Good morning. It is about 9:07 on Thursday, May 12th. This is this House and Senate K-12 Finance Conference Committee. Today we will be talking about, we'll be going over the spreadsheets, the last of the documents that came from both the House and Senate. And then we will go on to discuss a little bit about literacy and move on from there. So with that, we have our amazing staff up there, and I'm sorry, it's Miss
Buckle.
Okay. All right. With that, I don't know. I know you worked it out. So whoever wants to go first, however you want to do it, you may go ahead, Ms. Suckle.
Mr. Chair and members, I will start the presentation. Please allow me to share my screen now. Okay, so here is the spreadsheet for the House and Senate provisions in House File 4300. Starting with general education, on line 2, the House position has access to menstrual products operating capital revenue at $1.738 million in fiscal year 23 and $3.906 million in fiscal years 24 and 25. Line 3, the House has compensatory revenue adjustments of $5 million in fiscal year 2023 only. Line 4, declining enrollment aid. The House provides $25 million in fiscal year 23 only. Line 5, the English Learner Cross Subsidy aid. The House proposes funding this at lower percentages in fiscal years 23, 24, and 25. Gradually increasing until it is funded at 100% in fiscal year 26. Those amounts in fiscal year 23 are $76.112 million, and then in the tails, $202.449 million. Line 6, the House proposes expanding access to online learning for Bureau of Indian Education schools. This has a cost of $3,000 per year. Line 7, the House has extended time revenue for students in residential programs. The cost of this is $900,000 in fiscal year 23 and $2 million in the tails. Line 8, average daily membership adjustment for children with disabilities. This is in the House provision and has a cost of $511,000 in fiscal year 23 and $1.3 million roughly in fiscal years 24 and 25. Line 9, the levy equalization that the House proposes is $31.99 million in fiscal year 23 and $43.856 million in the tails. Line 10, the House proposes provision of special instruction increasing the age to age 22 instead of 21. This has a cost of $3.661 million in fiscal year 23 only, as it is just for fiscal year 23. Line 11, the voluntary pre-kindergarten proposal in the House has a general education cost of $76.9 million roughly in fiscal year 23 and $222.24 million in the tails. Line 12, transportation sparsity aid. This has a cost of $4.27 million in fiscal year 23 and costs of $8.219 million in fiscal years 24 and 25. Line 13, the career and technical aid increase, which is for the transportation provisions, transportation increases. The House has a cost of $3.2 million in each year of the tails. Line 14, the consolidation transition aid increase has a cost of $810,000 in fiscal year 23 and $90,000 in fiscal year 2024. Line 15, the English Learner Cross Subsidy Reduction Aid decrease. This makes the $2 million increase for fiscal year 2022 only, and so reduces the amount by 2 million in fiscal years 23 through 25. Line 16, non-public pupil education aid for counselors. The House proposes 1.677 million in funding in fiscal year 23 and roughly 4 million in the tails. Moving down to education excellence. Line 19, the House proposes funding after school programs at 25 million in fiscal year 23. The House also proposes setting a base for this item in fiscal year 2026. Line 20, the American Indian Education Aid increase for the House proposal is 3.12 million in fiscal year 23 and 7.064 million in the tails. Line 21, the House has 4 provisions included in its bold literacy proposal. Line 22 shows the letters proposal funding. The House proposes funding letters at 1.75 million ongoing.
Mr. Chair and members, on line 22, the Senate also proposes providing funding for letters training to teachers with an emphasis on prioritizing teachers who teach in kindergarten through grade 5. This $30 million would be available through fiscal year 2025.
Line 23, the bold literacy unit administration appropriation the House proposes is 800,000 per year. Line 24, the House also proposes data collection for the bold provision. This would have costs of 1.2 million per year. Line 25, the House proposes state library services for reading that have costs of 1 million per year. Line 26, closing educational opportunity gaps grants. The House proposes funding this at 5 million per year. Line 27, the House proposes funding a computer science blueprint program at 20,000 per year. Line 28, concurrent enrollment. This item is college in the schools, as there are a few items related to concurrent enrollment in the provision. This item, the House proposes funding at 5 million in fiscal year 23, 4 million in fiscal year 24, and 5 million in fiscal year 25. Line 29, culturally specific learning opportunities. The House proposes funding this item at 5 million ongoing. Line 30, ethnic studies implementation. The House funds this item at 576,000 in fiscal year 23 and 925,000 in the tails. Line 31, ethnic studies school grants. The House proposes funding this item in the tails only at 500,000 per year. Line 32, expanding rigorous coursework. The House also proposes funding this item at 5 million per year. Moving to page 2. Line 33, the House proposes funding full service community schools at 50 million in fiscal year 23. The House then sets a base for this item in fiscal year 26. Line 34, the Minnesota Association of Alternative Programs, or STARS chapter. This item has funding of 45,000 in fiscal year 23 only. Line 35, the Minnesota Council on Economic Education. The House proposes increasing funding for this item at 150,000 per year. Line 36, the House proposes increasing funding for the Minnesota Math Corps program at 500,000 each year of the tails. Line 37, multi-tiered systems of support. The House has a number of proposals included in this item. The first is an appropriation to MDE, regional centers and service cooperatives. And this is a cost of 2.6 million each year. The next is an appropriation to districts, charters, and co-ops for implementation. This has a cost of 9.4 million per year. The House here also includes a provision for letters. The House proposes funding letters for this item at 1.25 million in fiscal year 23 and 1.62 million ongoing. The House also proposes funding for Building Assets Reducing Risks Center at 4 million per year ongoing. Tribal state relations and statewide implementation of the multi-tiered systems of support, the House proposes funding at $2 million per year. And then the University of Minnesota Center for Applied Research and Educational Improvement would receive $2 million each year under this provision. Line 44, the Network for Children of African Descent receives $1 million in fiscal year 23. Line 45, the Sana Foundation has certain funds canceled from fiscal year 23 and then reappropriated so that they will be available through the end of fiscal year 2025. And you can see that on lines 45 and 46. Line 47, tribal contract schools counseling funds would receive $86,000 in fiscal year 23 and $95,000 each year of the tails. Finally, for educational excellence, line 48, wilderness inquiry would receive $494,000 per year ongoing. Moving down to teachers. Line 51, the American Indian History and Culture relicensure requirements has a cost of $86,000 in fiscal year 24 and $60,000 in fiscal year 25. Line 52, aspiring teacher retention bonuses. The House proposes funding this at $11.25 million in fiscal year 23 and then setting a base in fiscal year 26. Line 53, concurrent enrollment teacher partnership increase. This is another concurrent enrollment item. The House proposes funding this at $625,000 per year. Line 54, the Collaborative Urban and Greater Minnesota Educators of Color program would receive an increase of $2 million per year ongoing. Line 55, expanded concurrent enrollment. This is intro to teaching for high school students. This is another of the concurrent enrollment provisions. The House proposes funding this at $500,000 per year. Line 56, the House proposes increasing funding for the Grow Your Own program to the tune of $61.5 million in fiscal year 23. The House then sets a base in fiscal year 26. Line 57, the Minnesota Science Teachers Association would receive $611,000 in fiscal year 23 only. Line 58, the House proposes funding the non-exclusionary discipline training provision at $5 million per year. Line 59, special education due process preparation time. This has two lines in the spreadsheet. I'll point it out later. But the funding item in the teachers area of the bill is $18.23 million in fiscal year 23 and $16.832 million in the tails. Moving down to the special education article, line 62, the cost for provision of special instruction, increasing that age to 22, would be $21,000 in fiscal year 24 only. Line 63, the Registry of Interpreters for the Deaf certification provision in the House bill has a cost of $580,000 in the tails. Line 64, this is one of the largest provisions in the House bill. It is reducing the special education cross subsidy. And so the House proposes funding that at $422.613 million in fiscal year 23 and $992,505 million in the tails. Line 65, the House proposes moving the special education shift from the current roughly 87 and 12% shift to a 90-10% shift. So this would have a one-time cost in fiscal year 23 of $44.569 million. Line 66, I mentioned before that there was another due process appropriation in teachers. This is the one in special education. This has a cost of $12.867 million in fiscal year 24 and $13.459 million in fiscal year 25. Line 67, the House provision for training for paraprofessionals has a cost of $20.352 million in fiscal year 23 and $42.242 million in the tails. Moving on to facilities, line 70, the House proposes increasing the long-term facilities maintenance aid by 7.2 million each year of the tails. Then health and safety, moving down to line 73, the level 4 mental health innovative grant program proposed by the House has a cost of 9 million per year. Line 74, the mental health leads at the Minnesota Department of Education would have a cost of 226,000 in fiscal year 23 and 301,000 per year thereafter. Line 75, the student support personnel aid. This is another large provision in the House's bill. This has a cost of 95.862 million in fiscal year 23 and 212.295 million in fiscal year 24 and 25. Line 76, the student support personnel workforce pipeline for training of student support personnel. This has a cost of 9 million in fiscal year 23 and 1.5 million in each year of the tails. And this is a transfer to the special revenue fund. Moving on to nutrition. The House proposes reducing disparities for young children with disabilities funding of 172,000 per year. Line 80, the House proposes funding the school meals aid provision in its bill at 18.546 million in fiscal year 23 and 27.938 million in fiscal years 24 and 25. Line 83, this is for libraries. The House proposes a regional libraries increase of 1.8 million in fiscal year 23 and 2 million each year thereafter. Moving down to early education, the House proposes a college savings account program funded at 250,000 in fiscal year 23 only. Line 87, the House proposes early childhood family education funding for the office at MDE of 2 individuals. This would have a cost of 325,000 per year. Line 88, the early childhood family education teacher licensing support provision has a cost of 177,000 in fiscal years 23 and 24 only. Line 89, early learning scholarships. The House provision has 2 items in this. The House proposes reallocating existing pathway 2 funding. So you can see a reduction on line 91, and then the overall early learning scholarships increase the House wishes to implement is on line 90 with an increase of 150 million in fiscal year 23 and then 45 million each year thereafter. Line 92, the executive function grant program in the House proposal has a cost of 450,000 in fiscal year 23. Line 93, the Grow Your Own Early Childhood Educators program has costs of 3.86 million in fiscal year 23 and 7.61 million in the tails. This again would be transferred to the special revenue fund. Line 94, the Head Start increase that the House proposes is 10 million per year ongoing. Line 95, mental health services and early childhood social workers, that provision receives funding of 2.5 million per year ongoing. Line 96, the House proposes funding the Minnesota Children's Museum at 2 million in fiscal year 23 only. Line 97, the House proposes funding Reach Out and Read Minnesota at 250,000 per year ongoing. Line 98 is the voluntary pre-kindergarten through mixed delivery item. This has 3 components in the House proposal. The first part is Head Start. This would receive roughly 47.278 million per year ongoing. Then the licensed center and family child care providers would receive the same 47.278 roughly ongoing. And on line 101, the voluntary pre-kindergarten program would have costs of 2.364 million per year for implementation and administration. Moving to page 4. Lifelong learning. The House proposes increasing the adult basic education program by 1 million per year. Line 105, The House proposes fully funding the high school equivalency test, so paying for it in total. This would have a cost of $345,000 per year ongoing. For the Department of Education, the House, the House has one provision, but I will turn it over to my colleague to discuss the first one.
Mr. Chair and members, on line 108, the Senate proposes providing $700,000 per year beginning in fiscal year 2023 to the Regional Centers of Excellence for regional literacy support directors.
Thank you. Line 109, the House proposes criteria changes for the specific learning disabilities. This would have a cost of $540,000 in fiscal year 23 and ongoing. Moving down to the Professional Educator Licensing and Standards Board, or PELSB, on line 112, the House proposes funding the online licensing system improvements at $660,000 in fiscal year 23 and $728,000 in the tails. Moving on to the Legislative Coordinating Commission, the House proposes 2 working groups. The first is a compensatory education working group, which would have a cost of $23,000 in fiscal year 23. And then there's the special education working group that has also a cost of $23,000 in fiscal year 23. That concludes the general fund appropriations in the bill. There is a change to general fund revenue in the bill as well. On line 121 of the spreadsheet, the House allows the state academies to retain the rental revenue they receive from some of their lodging. So this would have an impact of $3 million on the general fund. Okay. Moving on to special revenue fund changes. Line 128, early learning scholarships. These are all items that were funded via the general fund earlier. So you can take a look at those numbers. But for the special revenue fund, there is appropriation authority and revenues of $131.177 million in fiscal year 23 and $43.92 million in fiscal years 24 and 25 for early learning scholarships. Line 129 shows that flexibility for state academies accessing rental revenue. That's $3,000 per year. The Grow Your Own program, which is a transfer to the special revenue fund, that has an impact on the special revenue fund of $61.5 million in fiscal year 23 only, with a base in fiscal year 26. And line 131, the Grow Your Own Early Educators program, again, has appropriation authority and revenues of $3.86 million in fiscal year 23 and $7.61 million in fiscal years 24 and 25. And then student support personnel, the workforce pipeline. This includes appropriation authority and revenues of $9 million in fiscal year 23 and $1.5 million each year thereafter in the special revenue fund. Moving down to restricted special revenue fund appropriations, the House provisions include on line 144, online learning application fee spending authority. This would have a cost of $21,000 in fiscal year 22, $5,000 in fiscal year 23, and then $3,000 in fiscal years 24 and 25. Again, this is from the restricted special revenue fund. The House proposal also includes an increase in Teachers Retirement Association earnings limitation for retired teachers just for fiscal year 23. This has a cost of $10,000 to the Teachers Retirement Fund in fiscal year 23 only. And then finally, we come to the levy impacts of the House provisions, excuse me. On line 154, There are levy costs of 52.597 million in fiscal year 24 and 23.311 million in fiscal year 25. Line 155, access to menstrual products, has an operating capital revenue levy impact of negative 59,000 in fiscal year 24 and negative 3,000 in fiscal year 25. Line 156, the operating capital revenue levy equalization. This has an impact of negative 13.739 million in fiscal years 24 and 25. And finally, the local optional revenue levy equalization in the House provision has an impact of negative 62.107 million in fiscal years 24 and 25. And Mr. Chair, that is the spreadsheet.
Thank you, Ms. Beckel. Before we move on to the second part of the agenda, members, any questions, comments, Mr. Chair?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And good morning, everyone. Thank you for that, Ms. Beckel. Wondering, Mr. Chair, on Senate staff was rather quiet during that presentation.
Yep.
You had identified there were some other items that had initially been on the side-by-side and then were removed that you, as I understand it, consider to be part of our broader conversations, but aren't being reflected in this spreadsheet. And I'm wondering, can we review those as well, since they're, as I understand it, in your mind, out there for consideration of the conference committee?
Well, we can review those in due time if they come up in the process, but no need to do so now. What we presented off the floor is what we presented off the floor, Mr. Chair, and that's what we're looking at right now. That is how it's always worked. I don't know why we would do it any different. But as we work through this process, this is the legislature. Nothing is, as we all have learned sometimes the hard way, nothing's ever done. So, but no, we will not discuss those. They're not part of our formal proposal at this point.
All right. All right. Thank you for that. I do have a question for Ms. Beckel. Line 87, the ECFE staff at MDE. And I'm just trying to remind myself, and if you can help me, how that works. I think at one point there was a creative proposal on how to fund those two positions. And I don't remember whether we stayed creative or if we just did a straight up appropriation to the department to fund those two FTEs. Can you help me with that, please, Ms. Beckel?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So line 87 of the spreadsheet is the appropriation of 325,000 in fiscal years 23, 24, and 25 to MDE. So this item was originally funded somewhat creatively, as your words suggest, with a percentage of early childhood spending. But no, Mr. Chair, this is not so creative. This is a direct appropriation out of the general fund.
Thank you, Ms. Beckel. Yes, Mr. Chair, I wasn't crazy about the creative funding, the idea that we would appropriate money out to districts and then they would, I'm trying not to use the word kickback.
You did.
But I did, I guess, you're right. That they would then return some of that funding to the department to fund staff to support district functions. We all have our biases and mine was not to do that.
I was, I was aware of the other alternate way they just were willing to cede a certain amount of dollars from their budget to the department to fund the two persons, which I have no problem with. So I don't know the accounting, but I thought that was very workable. I mean, sometimes the accounting gets tricky, but that was a good idea from this onset. So I'm aware of it.
Well, ECFE is one of the gems of Minnesota and has gone back. I think we remain unique in the country in terms of that is a way we support very young families. And many of us have very warm memories of taking our little ones to ECFE classes. I have had more than one conversation from a parent wishing we would initiate a teenage child family education program. to support families in that time period, and having taught middle school, the number of parent-teacher conferences where a parent would look at me and say, is my kid normal? And you'd assure them that they were as normal as any middle schooler can be. But ECFE is one of the jewels of Minnesota, and when they come forward and ask for more support, I think it's worth listening to. As I said, my bias was against the creativity. I'm all open to creativity in other areas, but keeping in mind that we do have a significant budget surplus, we do have the assets, we do have the capability of funding these in a straightforward, responsible, accountable way. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I see Representative Erickson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This question is for Representative Daphne, because in committee, I don't think we discussed this, but under the notes, on the last page of the walkthrough that Ms. Beckel and Ms. Hofer just did, we're doing that linking. So we never had a discussion about what to anticipate as far as increasing the basic funding formula when we do all that linking, nor did we discuss, that I recall, establishing all of those programs now in the base, starting in, 3 of them are in 2026, but linking to the basic formula allowance starts in 2024. So can you comment on that, please, as to anticipated increase in cost?
Chair Dabney.
Mr. Chair, Representative Erickson, give me just a moment to get down to where you're looking and review those, if I could. Mr. Chair, Representative Erickson, yes. As you know, one of the challenges for school districts is the unpredictability of school funding. The timeline that the legislature has chosen is difficult for school districts because, of course, sorry about that. Let me start over for the record. As you know, one of the challenges for school districts from a finance perspective is the unpredictability of school funding. Some dedicated funding lags, increases in the general education formula. The timeline of the legislature is often difficult. I've never proposed, and it's too late for either of us to do this, but that we move education funding to the second year of the biennium so that school districts can plan better. We create problems for districts by settling usually in May and sometimes, as we all know, in June or occasionally July for the next year. So linking items to the formula allows greater predictability. They know that whatever the formula does, we've usually increased that. We don't always. It's increasing this year behind inflation, but it gives them a little bit more predictability and planning ability. I don't know if that answers your question, Representative Erickson.
Thank you, Representative Daphne. I was more interested in what it's going to cost as we look at our future budgets, but perhaps that hasn't been figured out yet. Although I bet Mr. Straw maybe has an idea. Thank you.
I was going to start with Ms. Beckel if the chair would permit, but she may or may not want to throw it to Mr. Strom. I don't know.
Ms. Beckel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do indeed wish to throw this to Mr. Strong.
You're throwing this to who?
To Mr. Strong.
Mr. Strom.
Thank you.
Come on, Ms. Beckel.
Mr. Chair, members.
One moment, Mr. Strom. Ms. Hofer, how are you up there?
I'm hanging in here. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Strom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members. Representative Erickson, the linking that the House is doing currently is at zero cost because there's no formula increase. But if there were to be a formula increase in the future, then that percentage would go against those categories. And as a broad measure to think about compensatory revenue, one of those that would be linked is, or I'm sorry, the long-term facilities maintenance has an index, has a formula amount of about $380. So if you were to do a formula increase of 2% on that, and remember the rule of thumb that since there's about 1 million pupil units, that each dollar is about $1 million. So if you were to just do 2% times the 380, that would give you the rough amount that would be if there were a 2% increase in 24, and similarly with the others. But that's the biggest of the three. The extended time is about $60 million. And so that linking at 2% would be a considerable amount less. But that gives you a sort of a ballpark figure, Mr. Chair and Representative Erickson.
Thank you. Follow up, anyone?
And quite a challenge, Mr. Chairs.
Okay, well, with that, we'll move on to the next piece.
Mr.
Yeah,
Chair,
yeah, Mr. Chair.
Chair Richardson has a question.
Chair
it looks
Richardson.
like, and I'm not sure what Representative Hassan is indicating.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just had a couple of questions. One, I wanted to get clarification on line 121 of this, spreadsheet, Ms. Beckel. Can you clarify that the revenue impact there is 3,000 versus 3 million? Because I think.
Ms. Beckel? Ms. Beckel?
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. I apologize if I said 3 million. That is indeed an impact of 3,000 and not 3 million.
Say that'd be quite a windfall for them. Chair Richardson. Thank you. I saw that, but I thought, well, they're the math people. Thank you, Chair Richardson. Anything else, Chair Richardson?
Just one other question, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the indulgence. You know, clearly there are a number of appropriations here, and would like to hear from Commissioner Mueller, if possible, around some of these appropriations and the rationale behind them, if the chair is willing to oblige.
Yes, Chair Richardson, we'll give we'll give some time to the commissioner. Commissioner, would you like to come forward? I think Ms. Beckel and Ms. Hoffer, thank you for your time. Go take a rest, get a sip of water. Thank you.
So, Mr. Chair,
Yes. Chair.
when the House has the gavel,
Yes.
we'll simplify things
Okay.
by having the commissioner and Mr. Uni at the table to facilitate questions, as is custom and usage.
Well, you may proceed, Senator Chair Richardson. Chair Richardson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Mueller, with the number of appropriations that were here, I was just hoping that you could talk a little bit about what are some of the priorities and some rationale behind some of the priorities here, because looking across all of the different spreadsheets, from your perspective, where does MDE start in terms of really being able to make the most impact? So that's my question. Thank you.
So Chair Richardson and Commissioner Mueller, we will give deference to this, but we've had a whole session to go over this, and committee hearings and personal meetings, et cetera, et cetera. So we're willing to give deference, but I will not go into an entire recitation of your entire budget. So if there are like 3 things, Commissioner, that you would wish to highlight, the top 3 priorities and rationale, got about, we'll give you 5 so minutes. Thank you.
Chair Chamberlain, Chair Richardson, Chair Davany, and committee members, thank you very much. I appreciate having the opportunity to come up. I think that a couple of things that we want to be able to highlight are, one, you heard yesterday, and we've heard over the last couple of days around mental health and the need to be able to provide ongoing mental health supports and services. in addition to what we know about core academics. And so I'm going to set aside the mental health piece because we have talked about that over the last couple of days. And I think people know exactly where we stand on those pieces. I think that one of the things we also want to be able to talk about is a multi-tiered system of support. One of the pieces that came out of the conversation yesterday, as you heard from school nurses, our superintendents, as well as social workers, is the impact of a multi-tiered system of support. And one of the things I think that we know is that we do need to have an overhaul of the system. And when we talk about overhauling that system and really getting at the root, like you have said, Chair Chamberlain, it is actually about looking at how do we provide service and support to each and every student because of their unique needs, whether that is also in addition to of special education supports and services, English language, or needing to be able to provide gifted and talented services, right? All of those pieces are really important. In a multi-tiered system of support, it helps to provide a framework where you identify in tier one what we want all students to know and be able to do, and then how are we going to be able to do that, and then gives individualized supports building on that tier one to move to a tier two and a tier three. It helps in areas of specifically literacy, in areas of math, in areas of behavior, and then also in, bless you, social emotional learning and mental health. And so there are a couple of ways that you're able to provide that ongoing support. I think the other piece is important to note is in a multi-tiered system of support, the entire reason a multi-tiered system of support is created is because you are providing interventions along the way. And it does actually help to reduce the number of students who are entering into special education services. It means that you are providing, in addition to time, you are not over-identifying students and you are not identifying them early. It changes the way that our support staff are able to provide that ongoing support, and it actually also changes the ways that school psychologists are able to do their work. And so it really is a multi-tiered system of support, allows that framework, allows the conversation we talked about yesterday was discussed, and gets to the root of how do we provide individualized services and how do we reduce the number of students who are being over-identified for special education, and really ensuring that special education stays special. There's a reason for that, is it means that you could walk through those 3 tiers and then you would be, if appropriate and needed, then you would walk through an identification process. And so I think a multi-tier system of support. I think our bold literacy is another really important component. It ties, I think, beautifully with what Chair Chamberlain has laid out in his letters and in his letters plan, but it goes a step further. And the reason that it does that is because we also know that in professional development and in implementation science, we are aware that having a one and done professional development is not what is appropriate or best practices in learning. And so what we need to be able to do is provide ongoing coaching. And so this, in our bold literacy plan, it not only gives the opportunity for professional development in a letters or a letters type program, but it also gives the opportunity for ongoing professional development and coaching to ensure that what you are doing in the classroom continues to be effective. I think we also know that when you learn something and you are in it, sometimes it is hard to change your practice if you have been doing something in a different way. This actually gives you the opportunity to have that coaching, because if you don't have that, you revert back to what you used to do, and then we may lose the training to begin with. It also provides the opportunities for assessment at K2 at the state level. And the reason that we want to have that is we don't have that information. It's very difficult for us. And if we really want to be able to have read well by 3rd grade, we need to be looking at what's happening K2. 3rd grade is too late. If we know that 3rd grade is our marker, we need to look at what's happening K1 and 2 and in early learning to be able to identify that, and then look as a system across the board at the state to say what additional professional development and supports do we need, and what are the themes and areas where we see that there are weaknesses. So I think that's another really important component that we have. There's policy languages in that as well, but I think that that's how we differ in that. I also believe that the strides that we made in teachers of color and Indigenous teachers, as well as expanding the education workforce in general, is something that we've heard. We don't have people who are entering into this profession. It is an amazing profession. I am proud to have served in this as an educator for 25 years, and I would choose no other profession on the planet. And we know that students aren't choosing this. And so building pathways, education pathways in our high schools, building education pathways from a support professional into either an educator or into social worker, counseling, or school psychologists or nurses, where we know that we have gaps. We have Grow Your Own programs and our ability to do that. And then I would also say meals. Looking at universal meals, we know that in Maslow's hierarchy of need, that if a student does not know where their next meal is coming from, if they do not have access, or they live in a food desert, or for some reason they don't have access to those meals, it does mean that our students cannot focus on what they need to do in the classroom because they don't know what their meal is going to come. And so we need to ensure that if we have that within our ability, that we need to be thinking about how we're going to do that. We still have the ability to provide compensatory aid and support that we know that our school districts rely on because of the way that we're able to set up a system and process that. But it also means that our students know that they have some of their basic needs met the minute that they walk into the door. And so we believe that that is another really important component. And then also, I think, looking at obviously early learning. We know that early and often is incredibly important in expanding opportunities for students, especially at the 4-year-old age, and then providing not only VPK, but scholarships is incredibly important. It provides options for parents, and it gives opportunities for families who choose that to be able to enter into their school system and start to build that relationship early. We know that having that early also means that that helps to build literacy skills. Not every parent has the opportunity, has the bandwidth, has the knowledge and the skill to be able to sit and read with their children. They don't. We have families that are working multiple shifts, that their children are being supported by older students who also are doing their own work, and they may not have the opportunity or the language skill or acquisition yet to be able to not only learn how to read in their home language, but also to be able to learn how to read in another language. And so what we know is having that early education and providing options and expanding that means that we are building what we've done as a state incredibly well by ensuring that we're meeting the needs of our students and families early. It also means that we are starting to be able to identify, which is I think what we also heard yesterday, is we have school districts that have social workers that are in the early childhood space actually are able to identify families that are homeless at a higher rate more than anybody else, because that's where you tend to be able to have those conversations. We have high school students, they don't want you to know. Right? They can couch hop, they can find all of the pieces. But having that type of support at an early childhood space means that we have access to families that we may not have access to yet. It means we are providing literacy services and supports to families and students who may do incredibly well, but also who cannot guarantee that their family can do it. And it also means that we can provide early and often intervention to ensure that any type of specific learning disability, any type of mental health supports or issues, any type of gaps in meals or housing, that we have the opportunity to provide that early so that we're not doing it. What we know is that we are a system and a structure as an education system, because we have become the hub of a community, we have also become reactive. Everything we do is a response to something that is happening somewhere. A multi-tiered system of support, the ability to be able to look at early childhood, the ability to start to talk about the education profession early.
Commissioner, I'm going to ask you to wrap up.
Sure.
Representative Hassan has a question.
Okay, I will wrap and say, but our ability to actually be proactive is the system and structure I think that we all are seeking, and the change is the root cause of all of the things that we have talked about is that we are simply always, it feels like, on our heels reacting to something, and we have the unique opportunity to actually be proactive about a lot of things.
Thank you, Commissioner. Representative Hassan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a question for the commissioner, since we have the commissioner up there. Commissioner, the last few years, 2 years, we've been hearing about workforce shortage. We're hearing that there are not enough special education teachers, there are not enough counselors, there are not enough. I am a social worker by training, and I don't know a whole lot of people that are going into social work. It's a hard work, doesn't pay enough, the training is long. So are there plans for MDE to work with different boards, like Board of Social Work, Board of Psychology, Board of Behavioral Health, to have some sort of a pathway or create a pathway to have more people in this area, because as we have heard from our students and our educators, mental health is, a crisis that we're dealing with right now, and we're going to continue to deal with unless we need 16,000 social workers, and I don't think we're going to get 16,000 social workers unless we make this field lucrative and people can see it. I mean, people go into social work and psychology because it's for a passion, the same as they go into education. But are there plans to work with different boards to create pathways to get more social workers and counselors and psychologists?
Commissioner?
Well, I think that a couple of things is that we have built in to like the student support, sorry, I didn't say Chair Chamberlain
I said-
and Representative Hassan. Well, a couple of things that we know is that we have built into our student support personnel recommendations is that not only are we able to expand the number that are available, but we're also building pathways within them. And so being able to look at working with development boards and boards to be able to identify pathways, also looking at within the education system and structure itself, we may have, again, ESPs who are very good at what they do, or educators who are in the classroom that would like to move into counseling or social worker and can see a pathway in that, but also know that that is also some of the pieces that we need to be able to have is recruitment and retention bonuses. And so looking at retention bonuses for staying your first year, your second year, your third year, where you have the opportunity to see yourself in the work, you get through those difficult years, but also then build the pathways to ensure that we're expanding what this work looks like. I believe that we are going to continue to see that because our care professionals, because our educators have been in a position over the last couple of years where the work that they have done has been deeply meaningful and incredibly important, but has not been on display historically in the way that it has been recently. And it is not, these are not easy professions. They are rewarding professions. They are amazing professions. But I think that we also have the ability to talk about our work differently, not only as educators, but in education spaces of social work, school psychologists, and school counselors. And so we continue to say that it's hard, and it is true. And we also know that there are a lot of educators and school leaders who may be saying that this would not be their profession or they would not recommend it for others, but that's not what we're saying now. We are saying that we need to be able to build pathways, that we need to be able to provide the ongoing support for not only recruitment and retention. And so we do have those built into our student support personnel programs, as well as looking at educator pathways in our high schools and middle schools.
Representative Hassan, any
Thank you.
follow-up? All right. Thank you, members. We're going to move on to, thank you, Commissioner. So, members, we it had appeared, we are, of course, thinking about literacy and reading. Did you have the handouts? Literacy and reading appears to be a point of great agreement between everybody. The House has provisions in their bill. We have provisions in ours. Every member I've talked to or heard speak said they support it, albeit the Senate Democrats unfortunately voted against it, except for our colleague down here and Senator Hoffman. But appears to be widespread support for literacy. We all seem to understand it and the importance and the foundational aspects of literacy. Now, what you see is just a reminder of where we're at with this. In the last many years on our MCAs, it's been a downward trend for reading proficiency. And if you flip over, you see what is happening to Minneapolis schools specifically by demographics. Disastrous. The latest numbers are about 50% overall are not at grade level, and that is worse for children of color and at-risk communities. 30% are worse. That has been the trend for many years. So all the bureaucracy, all the stuff that has been done, all the mandates, all the money hasn't worked, everything. It's just not correlated to success. Now, I do appreciate the governor's and the department's position on the literacy. In many regards, there is agreement with that. I do not agree with the MTSS. In your spreadsheet, Mr. Chair, there's only about $1.2 million allotted for getting teachers the tools they need to read. And that, I think, can do better on. And the rest goes to bureaucracy and systems and things of the sort. I believe the NAEP scores are here too. And that, of course, highlights where Mississippi is with with children of color and at-risk communities. They are ahead. Now, people will argue that there are things we're doing that Mississippi isn't, or vice versa. Well, we don't need to argue that again. What I'm suggesting is that we can do better, we need to do better, we must do better, and there's a path to that. Finally, this literacy issue has been driven by parents, and then the educators got on board. They knew they were being they had been shortchanged. They knew they had been left behind, and they were hungry for change. It has been a bipartisan effort to get to this point where last year money was approved for the teachers to get this training. They didn't get what they were supposed to in higher ed, so we offered to help them out and support that. The teachers union, we collaborated with the teachers union, the school organizations, the parents, and individual teachers. They have come to us and said it's been a great success. They have seen success, it is proven. So our desire is to continue that effort and give them what they've asked for, and that is help with them. We never mandated it. We believe that by planting the seed, it would grow from the bottom up and inside out, and that is what the teachers have done. They want to teach their kids, they want to be successful, and where it has been tried, it has been successful. So to that end, we, parents, educators, would like to build on last year's success and continue with the letters. Now, in our bill, of course, is all literacy, and there are components, as I said, that align with what the House has. So our desire is to talk about that a little bit. We'll have an offer coming over a little bit later for you to review and get back to us. We believe it's that important. Yes, there are other issues to solve in education. We can't solve all of them, especially not this year and not from this place. It's quite evident that the politicians in this legislature have not been able to solve the problems. Prima facie is sitting right in front of us. So, members, any comments or questions or thoughts about reading and literacy overall? Good.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, I'm just, how valid is the comparison to Mississippi?
100%. Where, Mr. Chair, where is your question? Where do you focus why do you doubt the success of Mississippi had? These are NAEP scores. These are MCA scores. We had parents and other professionals go down there and look and observe and write. I've been to places where they've talked about Mississippi. They reviewed Mississippi's. I've been to conferences. I've been to, is it 8 Black Hands? They've talked about it. So it's not as though Mississippi was a flash in the pan. They started about 2013 or 2014 with this complete overhaul of their system, and one component was letters. So we can question NAEP's results, but I don't know why we can't just admit that there's a problem and we need to solve it. It's been a bipartisan effort from 2013. I remember you sat on a conference committee when I was a fairly new person in 2014, or maybe it was 2013, trying to get something with dyslexia. Mm-hmm. And that has morphed into this literacy thing. Mm-hmm. It has been bipartisan. It's in both proposals. Everybody has said they support it. Educators, superintendents have said it works. So what is the problem here? Why can't we start with item 1, where everybody seems to be in agreement, and address that and conquer that, climb that hill and conquer that enemy, which is illiteracy and the proficiency?
So, Mr. Chair, maybe I maybe I need to refine the question a little bit. Because, you know, as I said a couple of days ago, we share the goal. I think maybe my question is your goal students learning to read, or is your goal letters?
I don't know why we're parsing it, Mr. Chair. My goal from 2013, when I first met with the parents, and then hundreds of parents after that, and what I've read and seen in the research, is to get kids to read. And letters has been the proven program. And these parents have been hit roadblocks all along the way. And they shouldn't have. They shouldn't have run into politics. They shouldn't have run into this trouble. This should have been done 5-6 years ago. So the goal is to get kids to read. The parents want their children to read. The teachers want to be able to teach their kids to read. That has been the goal. Pure and simple. Nobody else has come along with anything else. It's been in statute. Science and Reading's been in statute for over 10 years. And the system failed to support and uphold its end of the deal for those educators and those kids. So it's kids reading. It's been bipartisan.
So, Mr. Chair, I hear that your goal is kids reading, not letters.
Kids reading and letters is proven.
So what I hear from folks is it's science of reading, and that there are several good programs that work with teachers to strengthen their literacy instruction. So again, the question becomes, one iteration of the question is, again, is it science of reading, or is it this one company?
My question, I'll answer the question with a question. What is your fixation on letters? What is your motive? Is your desire to get kids to read, or to debate a company that has proven successful in a time when nobody has brought anything else forward to us? Again, it's been in statute for over 10 years, and the system and the government and the agencies failed. So my question to you is the issue getting kids to read, or to distract on a particular company? Because this has been around for a long time, and nobody come up with an idea or something to solve the problem. So why we would fixate on letters is confusing to me, Mr. Chair.
So, Mr. Chair, as I tried to articulate a couple of days ago, the House's focus is on the students. Mm-hmm. What does it take to get a struggling reader to read? And that's more than just one company.
Have you, Mr. Chair and members, I'm going to say two things and then we're going to wrap this up. I'm not going to go around this. I'm not going to follow you down this rabbit hole. You do not have to be rich and white to learn to read. That has been proven time and again. Mm-hmm. Across the country, individual schools, Roland Farland, Benjamin Chavis, here in this state, you don't need all of that. You have to have an attitude and a desire and have expectations. Now, there are other challenges with children and families that we can address, but nobody has effectively addressed this issue for the last 8-9 years. So I want kids to read. I'm not fixated on a particular organization. Teachers wanted it. They love it. It works. They've come to us and said it works. So that's what we said. They have said it works. And they like it. They gobble it up. So we'll have a proposal to you later today. If people are concerned and want to get kids to read, they will open their minds, step out of the political box, leave the agendas behind, and get it done. These parents and these kids and these educators have waited far too long for the system to work for them, and the system failed. And this is the most direct, easiest, simplest way to get. The governor's proposal with MTSS spends more on building bureaucracy than anything else. It's stunning. There are pieces of their proposal that are great, literacy incentive aid, reallocating that. There was one thing that's not in your bill about co-ops and regional centers. There are good things there and a great intent. And the department has actually done a great job rebuilding that part of their operation. So I refuse to politicize this anymore with the kids reading. It's been politicized and beaten up for far too long, and I'm not going to do it. You either support reading and we work together to get this done, or we don't. And if you want to continue to attack a business, a company, an organization, even though it's successful and the educators love it, that's your prerogative. But we intend to drive forward with reading for literacy and parents and school safety. Literacy, parents, and school safety. Parents drove this. Educators have been behind this. Superintendents are behind this. So I am not going to politicize it anymore. We're going to give you a proposal. We either discuss and getting literacy and reading taken care of and changing the outcomes, or, you know, you pick your, you choose your road. But I'll give you a last comment, and then you can tell us what we're going to do on. The Senate is not here tomorrow or Saturday. We have had engagements lined up for a few months, and we'll be back on, we'll join you on Monday, but we're not here Friday or Saturday.
So,
Chair?
thank you, Mr. Chair, and we do have a couple of members who have questions, so I'd ask that courtesy. We're not, I share your outrage. Last year, we had in our committee a professor, researcher from the university, Center on Urban and Regional Affairs, I think, but no, Carrie, their research arm, whatever it stands for. And she was maybe closer to your and my age. And she talked about when she was in graduate school 30 years ago, researchers knew that the science of reading was what was needed. And she's only now seeing that in the popular discussion of the last few years. I'm outraged that my profession is so resistant to doing what the research shows is best for kids.
Actually, your profession is behind supporting this. So.
Well, we haven't been for a long time, even when the research is out there. And we need to find, we did something good last year. There's a little provision from Representative Bennett that said starting, I think it's next year, when MDE puts out grants, they have to be based on, the grantees need to demonstrate research-based programming. It can't just be a good idea. It has to actually have research behind it. And it's a small step, potentially powerful, that we did together last year. I share the outrage. I'm trying to get us to a point, and I think we're getting there, Mr. Chair, where we focus on kids learning. Because I think that's the power that we could have in this conference committee. Because as you've said, we've tried a bunch of stuff over the years, and it hasn't worked. And I'm equally frustrated. I want this to work. And the only way I see it is working is if we put that little kid who's struggling with learning to read in the center of our deliberations. That's where I'm trying to get to.
Mr. Chair, you're confusing me. I don't get what you're talking about. That's the whole point of this. It's the whole point of this. They've been left behind, forgotten. And the system fought these parents and me the whole 7-8 years. These parents have struggled for years, and the system fought them. Now, again, they're at the center of it. That's why we're doing this. Reading, reading, reading. It's nothing else. And then we can talk about other issues. But if the kids aren't reading, they're all suffering. And there's going to be behavioral problems. There's going to be, a lot of them end up in jail. They're frustrated. As people have said, they're not learning. They get that pit in the feeling in their gut. They're uncomfortable in school, and they want to do something else. So, Mr. Chair, finish your point. I'll move on to Representative Richardson and Hassan.
Why don't we move on at this time?
I'll start Representative Richardson this time, then we'll go Representative Hassan and then Senator Duckworth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for lifting up the work that was done in Mississippi. My family's actually from Mississippi, have 7 siblings. Half of us were educated here, half in Mississippi. And one of the questions that I have about their approach, because I understand that about 8% of kids in grades K through 3rd grade in Mississippi are being held back. Some of them are being held back multiple times, but it seems like one of the things that Mississippi has done with those kids who are being held back, they have implemented a variety of supports for those kids who are held back, and I think it would be really helpful to know exactly what those supports are for those kids who have been held back. I know part of it is an intensive reading program. They're also assigned a high-performing teacher if they're held back. But it would be really helpful to know what other supports that they are doing in addition to the letters, curriculum, and other literacy-related things. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Chair Richardson, it's a good point. Willing to discuss and look at it. Happy to listen to anything. And there's more than one way, as people have said. There's no magic bullet here. It's a lot of different things, but reading is vitally important. But I agree with you in general with that. Happy to hear it. Representative Hassan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm looking at this data, right? And everywhere you look, white kids in Minnesota are doing okay.
Yep.
So I don't hear anything from, your proposals that address racism. The elephant in the room is racism. I have 2 kids. My son is extremely, extremely smart. My daughter is, we yet to find that out. She's only 2.5 years old. My son is an extremely smart kid. He graduated. This is a kid that was taking his 8th grade. He was taking calculus. That's how frickish smart he is. He's a black man. He's not a white student. According to this data, if I look at this data, that means my son wasn't doing good. Well, according to this data. But what I'm trying to say is that we keep overlooking the elephant in the room, which is racism. We can implement letters, all of these reading programs. You cannot treat racism and bias by just teaching kids how to read. The same people that we want to teach kids how to read are the people that are, discriminating against our kids. So while we talk about, literacy, I would love to have a conversation about how our kids are being treated. My young kid, when she walks into kindergarten or preschool, the first thing that teachers are gonna see is not how smart she is or how loving she is and how much she gives hugs to people. They're gonna see her skin color. So I love literacy, and I'm 100% in support of increasing literacy, but I also would love for us to think outside of the box, because we're jaded in this box that says we can do this thing or not. I would love to talk about why Black kids aren't doing well. That's what I would love to talk about. And it's not because they're not smart. It's because they're being discriminated. It's because racism is the reason why our kids aren't doing well. So with all due respect, I want to talk about literacy, but I also want to talk about racism. I also want to talk about Black kids not even having a chance. Before they walk into the class, teachers already making the assumption that they're not smart, they're troublemakers, they're lazy, all of those discrimination and stereotypes that are, labeled on our kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Hassan. Senator Duckworth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess I'll divert some of my initial comments to address some of what was just shared, and then I'll dive into what I was originally going to say. Because I feel compelled to defend teachers and administrators and staff at all of our schools to some extent after some of the comments that were just made. I believe our teachers, our staff, our principals, our administrators, any and everybody that works amongst all of our schools across the state of Minnesota see so much tremendous value and opportunity in all of our kids and students. Obviously, we live in an imperfect world, and regrettable instances do occur. There's no doubt about that, and they're more than regrettable. But I don't think that any teacher or educator out there is purposefully, intentionally making those kind of judgments or discriminating against children, especially when it comes to teaching kids how to read. I'm often reminded from my days on the school board that when we look at some of this data, and not all of it is always exactly what we would like to see, but if we don't look at both the good and the bad in terms of reading scores of our kids throughout the state, we can't have the conversations that we need to in order to help them improve. Looking at these metrics, this is not a criticism of educators necessarily. This is us looking at where our kids are in real time and asking ourselves the question, regardless of what party you belong to, regardless of what part of the state you live in, how do we help all of our children learn to read, especially when they're seeing some declines? And here's what I'll share with you as well. Unfortunately, my guess is we're going to see some of these scores decrease even more before they get better. When you've taken young kids out of schools or had them in and out of schools for as long as we had over the last couple of years, that's going to impact their ability to learn. It's going to impact their comprehension of literacy. And that's why I'm so thankful for many of the teachers, educators, volunteers, parents who are rushing to meet the literacy needs of our kids and learning how to help them read. If you try to make everything a priority, well, then nothing is a priority, which is why I do appreciate the laser focus on literacy. If there's one single thing that we can focus on right now to help our kids, it's helping them learn how to read at a young age. That goes for all kids, regardless of your skin color. If we can dive in and help you learn to read, we will greatly increase your chances of success in school and in life. And, oh, by the way, we're going to solve a whole other host of issues that can be prevented by the fact that you're able to achieve what you need to academically. And so to comments that both chairs have shared today and members of both parties, there is a lot of agreement here. Let's not politicize literacy. Let's help little kids learn how to read. Let's provide them those resources, and let's make some progress as a state so that rather than us comparing ourselves to other states, we've got other states comparing themselves to Minnesota. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Duckworth. Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Plans going forward?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. Tomorrow is going to be an important exploration on some of the issues related to literacy. You know, Senator Duckworth, you made a good point about kids in school, and our kids aren't in school at the same rate. So one of the things we're going to be looking at tomorrow is disproportionate discipline, disproportionate suspensions, things that if we believe that kids who aren't in school aren't learning to read, we got a bunch of kids who aren't in school, and it's not the folks who look like you and me. And so we'll be touching on that. The importance of early childhood in this. You know, the commissioner made a good point about early childhood and its role in preparing children, and access to high-quality early childhood is a key strategy for academic success later in life, later being 2 or 3 years. But so we will have the gavel at 9. As you know, the legislative leadership came to an agreement that tomorrow would be virtual to facilitate the Minnesota GOP convention and to allow GOP members who wish to attend that. And so we will be virtual tomorrow, not in this room. Look forward to it. Would certainly invite my Senate colleagues to attend.
Well, you're very gracious, but as I mentioned, if someone wants to tune in virtually, they're welcome. But we've had commitments on the books for many months, so you may do as you wish, but we were not able to attend tomorrow or Saturday. Monday is your gig too. Mm-hmm. You'll have an offer from us very shortly. Our desire is to do committee work, Monday and Wednesday, we did not do committee work, we did committee hearings. So our desire is to do conference committee work and try to drive this forward. So that is our intent and our goal and our desire. And our desire is to help kids learn and put the politics aside. There's a lot of agreement on literacy, so we should get her done. So that, we are adjourned.
Thank you.